Hey, Joseph here. I have unboxed and teased a little bit about this laptop over here, Gigabyte Aero 15, in the previous video. And as I have promised, I deliver you the full review. I also had asked to see if you guys had any specific questions or requests. A viewer named Louis has left a long and kind comment about some of the things that he or she was wondering about. So I got you, Louis. I will do my best in answering those questions of yours as well as some of my own. In regards to the exterior, I'll refer to my unboxing and first impression video, the previous video. I did a pretty good coverage there, so I'll leave the link in the description for you guys to check that out. And there's a couple of things that I would like to add on to that. As you can see, the overall color is a mixture of glossy and sort of matte black. You can kind of see the gloss right there. And it is overall aluminum body, or aluminium for people across the pond. Feels very solid when handling and actually quite light as well. The actual weight of this laptop is this, and then the overall size of the laptop is this as well. In the unboxing video, I said I will look under the bottom cover as it seemed quite accessible, so I need to do that. So after about 1, 2, 10, 11, 12 screws, you can just easily pop the back of this laptop and it will reveal its inside. The first thing that you are going to notice is the upgradable memory. You can just pop it easily by just pulling these tabs on either side, and then your memory will be able to come out just like that. So if you feel that you need to upgrade this for later down the road, then you can do so. And if you look over here, there's an M.2 storage spot that has not been populated. I actually saw a thermal pad that was included in the box with the manual, so that is pretty much this pink thermal pad that you can apply onto the NVMe storage. So you can put the same NVMe storage on this spot and basically apply that thermal pad so it can dissipate the heat onto the aluminum body. So if you wish to upgrade your storage later down the line, you can either upgrade the existing one or just add another one, and it is very easy. Manufacturers often solder their storage and memory to their board, so you're pretty much stuck with whatever the configuration you got when you were purchasing the laptop. So I'm grateful that Gigabyte has allowed you to upgrade not only the memory, but also the storage, the original storage, as well as expanding onto another storage if you wish to. And by the look of it, it is quite easily serviceable, including the battery itself. So later down the line, if you need to service the laptop, then that is going to be quite a lot easier than some other laptops that are out there. I really wish more laptop manufacturers would do this, as I had trouble with laptops that doesn't allow you to service at all. Whilst looking inside of the laptop, let's just kind of appreciate how many heat pipes are configured to cool this device. And also the battery itself is 99 watt-hour battery occupying the bottom of the laptop, and this is the maximum allowed battery size, so hopefully this will be able to power the laptop for a long time. Actually, more on that later. So all great things noted here. Let's go ahead and close the laptop back up. Before we open the top of the laptop, let's go over the specification of this laptop. It was actually stated on the box, I just missed it, and the actual SKU of this model is Gigabyte Aero 15 OLED XD model. The display is OLED as noted on the name, and it is a UHD 4K screen. A gorgeous screen, more on that later. And the CPU is the latest Intel 11th Gen i7 11800H. The GPU is RTX 3070 with 8 GB of VRAM, and it is questionably Max-Q variant. Nvidia doesn't specify the Max-Q variant anymore, so it is a bit confusing. So even though you have RTX 3070 on your laptop, it may not perform as expected. So that is going to be somewhat confusing for people who are not as tech savvy. So if you're needing to test out something, then I suggest that you just kind of have the laptop purchased and test it out for whatever the task that you do, and then see if it is suitable for the things that you do. Or perhaps you watch videos like this or subscribe to my channel, so whenever I do testing on specific laptops, that you are able to see the benchmarks. Anyways, we are quite dependent on GPU performance, so we're gonna have a deeper dive in those in the later of the video. And also the memory for this laptop is total of 32 gigabytes with two 16 gigabyte sticks, as you saw on the side of this laptop. And yeah, that is upgradable as well. And I think 32 gigabytes is plenty for even professional usage, but when I was doing a bit of research, I only found 16 gigabyte options for this laptop available online. So I suppose you can just upgrade it to 32 gigabytes as you find it is necessary, or even upgrade to 64 gigabytes if you handle large projects very frequently. And because of its 11th gen CPU, you can expect really good storage performance with PCI Gen 4 performance. And the inclusion of Thunderbolt 4 means that you can connect peripherals that can take advantage of high speeds, and that was quite noted on the sticker over here. Supports PCIe Gen 4 storage, faster connection speed with Wi-Fi 6, Thunderbolt 4, and then HDMI 2.1, 4K 120Hz video output. And since we just opened up the laptop, let's look at the Hinge. And because I have been asked about the screen wobble, I kind of looked into this, and I'm actually glad that I have been asked about it. Upon testing, which is simply like this, I can find that the screen itself is somewhat wobblier than some of the screens that I'm used to. When you close and open the laptop itself, the hinge movement is quite smooth and actually quite pleasant to open and close the laptop. But I think it is actually the screen that is a bit top heavy perhaps, and these hinges don't support as properly. So it introduces a bit of screen wobble that just resonates longer period of time. When I try to flex the screen, there's very minimal amount of flex, and for its size 15-inch, it is a quite solid feeling screen as well. But I suspect that they have packed a good amount of metal up here, and it is actually evident when you're trying to drop the screen, and it kind of closes with a sound and a force onto the body itself. I first thought it was actually due to the strong magnet of this laptop. Laptops actually have magnets on the top so that it doesn't accidentally open inside of your bag. But it feels like that after some angle, it just kind of pushes the screen down as well. So about here, if I just try to lift, it is actually pushing the screen down a bit. So it closes with sort of higher force. And also in terms of the angle, the laptop itself doesn't open further than this angle. So when I was actually typing with the desk lowered, I was needing to kind of lower the screen as well, but I just couldn't really push it further because it is sort of fixed at this angle. But when I'm typing on the laptop itself, it doesn't really wobble in a way that is annoying to you. Maybe there is a little bit of shake as I type. And this desk itself, because it is standing desk, there is a significant amount of desk wobble, and that's going to introduce some wobbling, but it is not really annoying or anything. It doesn't really bother me. But it definitely feels like the hinge kind of flexes inside and allows small movement like a wobble, as the screen itself is somewhat heavy. And unless you are using this laptop on a bumpy or shaky car ride, it is not going to have that sort of problem. I had no problem using this laptop on my lap either, and typing on it didn't really introduce any of the shakes. But it is actually possible for you to shake the laptop and then the screen starts to fold like this. So yeah, that is something for you to be aware of. And upon closely checking, visually at least, I can see that both of the hinges are connected properly on both sides. So I think it is just a matter of the size of the hinge compared to the weight and size of the screen. It does seem somewhat small to the overall screen size, so that is something that I just noticed. And when you are actually using the laptop, you will not really see this at all, but if I were to turn on the laptop, you'll see that it has the Aero logo that lights up at the back of the device. And I think this can be somewhat distracting when you are in sort of the professional environment. Imagine you are in a dark room doing a presentation. The only thing that the viewers will see is a brightly lit presentation screen and the Aero logo in the dark. There is a control center of Gigabyte where you can control the RGB lights of the keyboard, but there isn't a way to turn this off or change the brightness of the logos. Maybe there is a way to control it, I just couldn't find it. As to the overall light control, in the control center, you can change the overall laptop mode to creator mode, and then that will change the keyboard RGB lights, the rainbow colors to the white. That was a quite sensible thing for Gigabyte to do, and you can actually change all the keys individually to a different color if you wish to. I'm not really fond of those features. As long as it has backlit of white, I don't really care for it all that much. But if you want to have some fun and customize your keyboard to whatever the color that you want to do it as, then that is possible. And since we are talking about the keyboard lighting, let's go ahead and talk about keyboard and the touchpad. The inclusion of the number pad is actually quite nice. I do use number pad quite a lot on the desktop keyboard. Just to kind of show you, this is my regular desktop keyboard. I really do use number pad here a lot. So having the number pads on the laptop itself is definitely a plus, and I have seen poor implementations before where the keys don't really land in the right spot, therefore I'm missing the numbers all the time, and that is not the case for this laptop. Only one thing that I do want to point out is the fact that my thumb lands on the right arrow key instead of 0, because usually the 0 key is double width, therefore you can easily hit with your thumb, but mine just kind of lands onto the right arrow key as the 0 key is quite small on this one, so that is something to be noted. But because the number pad is on the right side, it shifts the entire keyboard layout to the left. Therefore, you end up typing towards the left of the laptop. It is somewhat unnatural, and my right palm actually clips the corner of the touchpad as well. And I didn't really see the palm rejection working all that well. It will move the cursor. I'm not really pressing on it that hard since it is just the corner of my palm that is hitting the corner of the touchpad. So I'm not putting any accidental clicks, but you will notice that your cursor may kind of move a little bit depending on your hand size or palm size. But I know there are people who are just really die-hard number pad fans out there, so yeah, I guess you just have to take your pick, but just be aware there's a number pad and the keyboard is shifted to the left, and it may have some unnatural typing experience. And as to the overall keyboard experience, it does have quite a nice travel. The keys feel nice. I have typed up the entire outline of this video on this laptop, and I was comfortably typing away and no problem in terms of typing experience. And because I type in a well-lit environment, I just don't really notice these sort of issues. But if you were to type away in a dark room, you'll see that the backlighting doesn't light up the function keys. Therefore, you won't be able to see those on the keyboard. But that is something that I have noticed. Actually, let me show you the dark room environment. So if you're in sort of the dark environment, you see the Aero logo that is lit on the back of the laptop, and there's no other way around it. And in terms of the keys, if I hit the function key, you'll see that the function rows kind of light up, but you won't be able to really spot the function keys, only the F1, 2, 3, and so on that will lit up. And if you hit the function key and the space bar, it will just kind of cycle through different backlight brightness. As to the trackpad, high points to all as it feels comfortable. It is glass top and it feels smooth and works very well. Multi-gestures all work well. And also it is sized quite well for practical usage, other than the fact that it kind of clips my palm when I'm using the keyboard, but I guess it is alright. I can avoid it, but the sole purpose of using the touchpad, it works very well. And I must mention there is a fingerprint sensor for you to use. Not that I really use it, but for the people who uses the biometrics to log into your machine, that is available for you. Honestly though, if I'm planning on doing more meaningful work on this laptop, I'm gonna have a mouse with it anyway, so it doesn't really matter how great the touchpad is. I just need it to function well in between the major tasks. And the laptop does have a webcam. The quality and the positioning for the laptop isn't really amazing, but if I really care about the quality and the location of the laptop, I will probably have an external webcam or a camera, just like this one here. And I actually like the fact that it has a physical cover that you can just slide over. And in regards to the speaker, if you have seen any of my other laptop reviews, then you would probably know that I don't really care for speaker quality on laptops. I rarely use it. But here's some sound sample for those of you who actually care about the sound quality of the laptop. The overall sound quality is fine. I have no problem with it. It sounds pretty good actually. I can kind of see the reflection of myself on the screen here. That was one of the questions, I believe, Louis. And I can actually make the brightness a lot brighter. And there is a reflection for dark scenes like this. As this is an OLED screen, all the blacks are really black, therefore you can't really avoid the reflection. The screen itself is very bright, so there isn't really much of a problem recognizing what's on the screen. It's just that if you have any black spots, then you're gonna be able to see the reflection. And what I actually care a lot about is battery life and charging of the device. The original included charger is quite big. As you can see, it's right here. So what I actually recommend using is this 100-watt gallium nitride charger, power delivery charger, so that you can just connect this to the Thunderbolt 4 port that's on the side and actually charge it via USB-C. It is much easier to carry around and it is more versatile since you can charge other devices with USB-C as well. However, if you want the maximum performance, this is going to throttle in terms of the performance a bit. So you're going to have to carry around your original charger if you're planning on doing any sort of GPU heavy tasks such as VR presentation. I'll include the links to my choice of charging kit in the description. Anyhow, it is great the fact that you can charge the laptop either through the DC charging cable or the USB-C on the right side. In regards to battery life, however, I could not get this laptop to last more than 2 or 2.5 hours on the regular use. When the laptop is drawing power from its battery, which is doing right now, I was on the preset maximum battery life mode and the screen dims to 30% and the keyboard backlight will be off. And when you are connected to the power, then the creator mode will kick in and you'll see that keyboard will light up and then the screen goes brighter and the fans will turn on as it is trying to maximize its performance, and that is going to be suitable for 3D and performance type of tasks. And if you actually unplug the device and put the device onto the creator mode, you can expect about 1 hour of battery life, as this device has 8 cores, 16 threads, and then GPU of RTX 3070, and then the OLED screen. It has a lot of components that you need to kind of cool down. And if you want to maximize the fan, then you can just hold down the function key and the escape button. That's the max fan noise. And then you can just go to the balance mode by hitting it again. The overall fan noise is well managed and I don't mind it at all. If you're really pushing the device, you'll hear that the fan noise will get louder and louder. But overall, fan noise is really well managed on this device and I don't mind the sound at all. I've actually checked the Nvidia GPU activity and saw nothing that was abnormally showing up. On idle, there was nothing, but still it is kind of consuming the battery as it needs to power all cores as well as this well-lit 4K gorgeous screen. Regardless of its short battery life, I can kind of excuse that since I can use the USB-C power delivery to charge the laptop, and that is going to be quite easy, as well as it's got really great screen. The camera itself doesn't really do the justice as I lower the brightness. It is so bright. If I were to go maximum brightness, it is going to be basically burning up, and the color look gorgeous over here on all angles, but on camera it's just not really quite right. If I lower the screen brightness, and there's a noticeable sort of flickering just due to the camera, but maybe that looks slightly better in terms of color. Yeah, I must talk about its amazing display. Unfortunately, it will eat your battery, but 4K OLED is very, very nice. This is actually not my first time looking at 4K OLED 15-inch screen, but this is the first one that had a color calibration and actually Pantone validated, which means just overall color is really accurate. It is going to hit sRGB 100% and 99% Adobe RGB and some crazy numbers for color accuracy. So even if you're doing professional color work, you can count on this display. As you can see, the blacks are going to be quite dark, almost mirror-like, I must say, and the other lit area is going to be quite bright. Overall color is really nice, and if you ever look at other monitors or computer screens side by side, you'll notice that there's quite a difference in terms of the overall color as well as the brightness. I typically don't recommend 4K screens in 15-inch laptops, as usually it's not really justifiable in terms of the cost as well as the resource that it is going to eat up. And it is evident that it is consuming a lot of resources, but just because the screen is so good, it may just be justifiable. So if you're the type of person who does color related work, this screen is what you want to get. By the way, you may get a bit more battery life by switching the overall resolution to 1080p, but the screen is so nice. I don't want to downgrade my overall resolution just so that I can have a bit more battery life. But at a pinch, I guess that's what you have to do. Okay, so let's look at the overall performance and the benchmark of this device. Here are some of the benchmarks that I was able to perform. First of all, let's kick it off with Inkscape. And these are the results that are based on 4K 60 frames per second video rendering time. You can see that the RTX 3070 really pulls ahead of other desktop grade GPU cards. Inkscape's ray tracing definitely benefits from Nvidia's 30 series cards, and the overall result is quite impressive. Moving on to Lumion, it shows somewhat different looking result, as it is not utilizing Nvidia ray tracing. Whilst it is pulling ahead of other laptop GPUs, it does not perform better than other desktop grade cards. If you look at the combustor benchmark, keep in mind that the scores are more the better. This is somewhat expected result, as the GPUs inside of laptops will perform less than the desktops. Moving on to the CPU bound tasks of V-Ray, you can see how this laptop does very well. This 11th gen 8-core 16-thread CPU pulls ahead of other machines that I have tested. The only one that it could not do better is the Striker 2 from Bimbox that has all cores overclocked in a desktop. So the CPU performance is very, very impressive. When we look at the hybrid test of V-Ray's GPU benchmark, where it looks at both CPU and GPU performance, you can see that it pulls ahead of all machines that's not equipped with 30 series card, as the CPU performs very well. And when we move on to the Revit benchmark from courtesy of Bimbox, keep in mind that these results are shorter the better, and because it is using PCIe Gen 4 speeds, it is going ahead of any other machines that I have tested in terms of the benchmark score. And I'm guessing the result for this test is like this because it is heavier on CPU and the storage speeds. And for another CPU related test, it is Blender CPU benchmark, and it is better than most of machines besides Striker 2. For the Blender GPU benchmark, you can see that it is better than other 20 series cards, but less than desktop 30 series cards. Okay, let's talk about the price of this machine. I was not able to find exact model online, as this unit is a PR sample. It is quite possible that they prefer to sell slightly different configurations. The one that I have found on both Newegg and Amazon have different memory size, which is 16 gigabytes, but everything else are the same, and they're listed as $18.99 as sale prices. 4K OLED and all of these specs for that price is not bad at all. Plus, you can easily upgrade the memory or the storage down the road as you feel it is necessary. So it feels like everything in this machine is actually made to drive 4K OLED screen. It is quite likely that the machine would not run as smoothly if you were running anything less than RTX 3060. The 11th gen 8-core CPU is the latest and the greatest offering from Intel. Makes quite a lot of sense for them to pair it up with a good performing GPU. The biggest downfall of the overall performance is actually the battery life due to its powerful nature. As it lasts only about 2 hours, you just have to make sure that you are close by other outlets. After some research, I found out that Gigabyte offers a few different SKUs for this specific laptop: KD, XD, YD, and the specs are better as it tiers up. Basically, it upgrades from RTX 3060 to 3070 and then ultimately 3080. The prices seem to be ranging from $1350 and then $1900 and then $2250. All of them have 4K OLED screen that is very, very nice. Us architects and people who do a lot of rendering do value color a lot. So if you feel that you would also need this 4K OLED in your life, this is your pick. And even if you don't do much color accurate OLED screen, all the CPU bound tasks are going to be well handled by this machine as well. It is incredible how much you can do with this laptop with this size these days. Did I sound too much like an oldie? Anyways, I will link all the SKUs in the description. Whilst they are affiliated links, it doesn't cost you anything extra. It just helps to support the channel. If you have enjoyed this content, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want to continue watching these type of videos. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.